Okay, quick engine test stand update progress report. As you can see, it definitely looks a bit different from what it did in the last video. No, I'm not just meaning all the extra wiring. No, all that's not going on this. That's actually 3 different harnesses. One is the one that's currently attached to the dash. The other is one I had sitting with this machine. And the third is one I had sitting with the racing lawnmower. Which one I'm going to use, I don't really know yet, and all 3 could technically be used, I think. I'll show why in a second. As for the front, I got everything all cut back. You might be wondering, how am I going to mount mufflers? On single cylinder engines, I'll just use a overhead valve muffler that's self-supported off the engine. For V-twins, I just won't run a muffler, not a big deal. They won't be ran for very long on this. They'll just be put in place, started up, and ran. In worst case scenario, I can sit a muffler up underneath and it will stay on there long enough for it to run and be tested. I do plan on putting the front bar back in place. It's actually the bar that the hood would use as a pivot point, just to give a little bit more flexibility when moving this around. I can grab it from the front if I need to move it, if I need to back it in somewhere, sort of thing. Or if I need to pull it out of somewhere, I can use that front bar instead of always having to grab the steering wheel. I found the piece for underneath the steering wheel. I found the battery tray. I have the gas tank in the garage. It's the one that came off of the first engine that will be going on here, that will be tested. Really, next on this, I gotta get the transaxle, or what's left of the transaxle, mounted in place. I'll talk about that in a second. Gotta get the ignition switch, throttle cable, and headlight switch removed. Really, the headlight switch is what's going to determine which harness I use. Yes, that will still be hooked up. I do plan on mounting a couple lights to the front of this. That'll also help with that bar I plan on putting back across. The wire can run across that, just to test lights and to make sure the charging system is working. Since, as you can see, this dash does not have provisions for a volt gauge. The original Poulan one did, and that went with the Murray, since the Murray had a complete wiring harness swap done on it. I could definitely drill one into this at a later date if either one of these harnesses, except for the one that's currently on here, I don't think it has the provisions for it. It might not. As long as one of these harnesses has the provisions for a volt gauge, I can definitely mount one in here very easily. As for the transaxle, pretty much I took a grinder, I cut it, and then I took my big sledgehammer and a block of wood right there, and I broke it in half. No, it wasn't a clean break, as you can see. Unfortunately, I could not find the proper size Allen keys to take this transaxle apart, or else I would have, but then the differential would have been separated, which I did not want to do. I wanted to keep the differential fully intact, which it is. No, it won't be spinning anymore. The casings will go on here with no axle keys in place, and they'll just spin freely. They will still have all the washers and all that stuff in place, and maybe not caps on the end. I haven't really decided if I'm going to go that far as of yet. Really, what's left on this, I gotta get those brackets right there mounted in place. Then I gotta get this pressure washed and painted. That is pretty much the next step. Oh, and like I said, the wiring harness has to come out, so I don't get paint on the wires, since I don't know which harness is being used yet. But I don't want to get paint on any of it, just so I know which wire is which, and I don't like painted wires. So anyways, that's pretty much it for this as of right now. It's definitely coming along. It will work out, and it'll definitely be a good thing to have around in the future. It's not going to be as large as a regular tractor. It'll just be nice and stubby. And technically, in the future, this is down the road, you could put a proper transaxle back in this, centrifugal clutch on the engine. You could still mount a hood. Everything will still be here for a hood, since the bar will be in place. It might move around a bit, but the side points are still relatively intact, and you could actually make an actual stubby riding lawnmower. You'd have to add in all the lawnmower stuff underneath, but it could technically be done. It'd be interesting. Something, will I build it? Probably not, but it's definitely something that could be done. You could even take a rear fender like that and put it in place and make it work. I'm just saying, it could be done, but it probably won't be done. This will most likely spend the rest of its life as an engine test stand, as long as I keep it in good shape. And really, it won't take much to repaint it every once in a while if it needs to be repainted. So anyways, that's pretty much it. And yes, all of the original Poulan hoops and casings will be staying on here, unless I have a machine come in that needs them. That's the only reason why these might come off. But for as of right now, nothing is being touched on this. It's all staying the way it is, and it will look like a Poulan engine test stand. Hey, that's the name for it. I'll talk to them later. Please keep it redneck like always, and please subscribe and comment.